Samsy. Story time with Ronnie. Hey guys, we got Island of Dr. Moreau, part 10. Okay, what's this drive? Let's see if we get this right. Oh, I-40 going west, where we pick it up where we left off the last one on this road, I-40 west. We're going towards Kingman. I don't think we get there today, but we get a little ways. I'm betting we's going over to a little boondocky spot called Ash Fork. Either that or we're just leaving there. All right, now this story, the Island of Dr. Moreau. They was about to land on the island. Pendrick was pretty happy. They had come back and they decided to pick him up. He was drifting by. So this is where we're going to pick it up. There was a kind of a weird looking guy. He was dressed like Montgomery and his white-haired companion in a jacket and trousers of blue serge. He was waiting on the beach. He had just weird looking guy. He had weird lank arms and long thin feet and bow legs, and he was running back and forth like a weirdo. It don't look good for Pendrick. Okay, let's pick it up. Here we go. As we came still nearer, this individual began to run to and fro on the beach, making the most grotesque movements. At a word of command from Montgomery, the four men in the launch sprang up with singularly awkward gestures and struck the lugs. Montgomery steered us round into a narrow little dock excavated in the beach. Then the man on the beach hastened toward us. This dock, as I call it, was really a mere ditch just long enough at this phase of the tide to take the longboat. I heard the bows ground in the sand. Staved the dinghy off the rudder of the big boat with my piggin, and, freeing the painter, landed. The three muffled men, with the clumsiest movements, scrambled out upon the sand, and forthwith set to landing the cargo, assisted by the man on the beach. I was struck especially with the curious movements of the legs of the three swathed and bandaged boatmen. Not stiff were they, but distorted in some odd way, almost as if they were jointed in the wrong place. The dogs were still snarling and strained at their chains after these men, as the white-haired man landed with them. The three big fellows spoke to one another in odd guttural tones, and the man who had waited for us on the beach began chattering to them excitedly. Take a look at this little drive. It's pretty boring up there. There's not much going on. Yeah, high plateau, I guess you might call it. A foreign language, I fancy, as they laid hands on some bales piled near the stern. Somewhere I had heard such a voice before, and I could not think where. The white-haired man stood holding in a tournament of 6 dogs and bawling orders over their din. Montgomery, having unshipped the rudder, landed likewise, and all set to work at unloading. I was too faint, with my long fast and sun beating down on my bare head, to offer any assistance. Presently, the white-haired man seemed to recollect my presence and came up to me. "You look," said he, "as though you had scarcely breakfasted." His little eyes were a brilliant black under his heavy brows. I must apologize for that. "Now you are our guest. We must make you comfortable, though you are uninvited, you know." All right, let me wet my whistle here. Take a look at this little drive. Catch my breath. I tend to hold my breath a lot. Like in swimming, it's like, oh, how long can you swim? Oh, I don't know. How long can I hold my breath? All right. Uninvited. He looked keenly into my face. Montgomery says you're an educated man, Mr. Prendick. Says you know something of science. May I ask what that signifies? I told him I had spent some years at Royal College of Science and had done some research in biology under Huxley. He raised his eyebrows slightly at that. That alters the case a little, Mr. Prendick, he said with a trifle more respect in his manner. As it happens, we are biologists here. This is a biological station of a sort. His eye rested on the men in white, who were busily hauling the puma on rollers toward the walled yard. I and Montgomery, at least, he added. Then, when will you be able to get away? I can't say. Okay. Oh, okay. I finally got it now. I see it there. Okay. Hauling the puma on rollers towards the walled yard. I and Montgomery, he added. Then, when you will be able to get away, I can't say. We're off the track to anywhere. We see a ship once in a 12-month or so. He left me abruptly and went up the beach past this group, and I think entered the enclosure. The other two men were with Montgomery, erecting a pile of smaller packages on a low-wheeled truck. The llama was still on the launch with the rabbit hutches. The staghounds still lashed to the thwarts. The pile of things completed, all three men laid hold of the truck and began shoving the ton weight or so upon it after the puma. Presently, Montgomery left them and came back to me, held out his hand. I'm glad, said he, for my own part. That captain was a silly ass. He'd have made things lively for you. It was you, said I, that saved me again? That depends. You'll find this island an infernal rum place, I promise you. I'd watch my goings carefully if I were you. He hesitated and seemed to alter his mind about what was on his lips. I wish you'd help me with these rabbits, he said. His procedure with the rabbits was singular. I waded in with him and helped him lug one of the hutches ashore. No sooner was that done than he opened the door of it and, tilting the thing on one end, turned its living contents out onto the ground. They fell in a struggling heap, one on top of the other. He clapped his hands, and forthwith they went off with that hopping run of theirs. 15 or 20 of them, I should think, up the beach. Increase and multiply, my friends, said Montgomery. Replenish the island. Hitherto, we've had a certain lack of meat here. As I watched them disappearing, the white-haired man returned with a brandy flask and some biscuits. Something to go on with, Prendick, said he in a far more familiar tone than before. I made no ado, but set to work on the biscuits at once, while the white-haired man helped Montgomery to release about a score more of the rabbits. 3 big hutches, however, went up to the house with the puma. The brandy I did not touch, for I have been an abstainer from my birth. Oh, wow. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. That's the end of chapter 6. We got chapter 7 now. And things are going to get a little bit more interesting, if that's possible. The chapter 7 is called The Locked Door. So now let's take a look and see where we're at on this most exciting drive. It is kind of pretty, you know. Every bit of it's got something different going on there. So yeah, we just rolling around. We got about halfway through this thing. Okay, so it was hard for me to have the excuse that I've lost my spot because it's the end of the chapter. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try to use that excuse. Okay, where was I now? Chapter 7, The Locked Door. The reader will perhaps understand that at first everything was so strange about me, and my position was the outcome of such unexpected adventures, that I had no discernment of the relative strangeness of this or that thing about me. I followed the llama up the beach and was overtaken by Montgomery, who asked me not to enter the stone enclosure. I noticed then that the puma in its cage and the pile of packers had been placed outside the entrance to this quadrangle. I turned and saw that the launch had now been unloaded, run out again, and beached, and the white-haired man was walking towards us. He addressed Montgomery. And now comes the problem of this uninvited guest. What are we to do with him? He knows something of science, said Montgomery. I'm itching to get to work again with this new stuff, said the gray-haired man, nodding towards the enclosure. His eyes grew brighter. I dare say you are, said Montgomery, in anything but a cordial tone. We can't send him over there, and we can't spare the time to build him a new shanty, and we certainly can't take him into our confidence just yet. I'm in your hands, said I. I had no idea of what he meant by over there. I've been thinking of the same things, Montgomery answered. There's my room with the outer door. That's it, said the elder man promptly, looking at Montgomery, and all three of us went towards the enclosure. I'm sorry to make a mystery, Mr. Pendrick, but you'll remember you're uninvited. Our little establishment here contains a secret or so. It's kind of Bluebeard's chamber, in fact. Nothing very dreadful, really, to a sane man, but just now, as we don't know you. Decidedly, said I. I should be a fool to take offense at any want of confidence. He twisted his heavy mouth into a faint smile. He was one of those saturnine people who smile with the corners of the mouth down, and bowed his acknowledgment of my complacence. The main entrance to the enclosure was passed. It was a heavy wooden gate, framed in iron and locked, with the cargo of the launch piled outside it, and at the corner we came to a small doorway I had not previously observed. The gray-haired man produced a bundle of keys from his pocket, from the pocket of his greasy blue jacket, opened the door and entered. His keys and the elaborate locking up of the palace, even while it was still under his eye, struck me as peculiar. I followed him and found myself in a small apartment, plainly but not uncomfortably furnished, and with its inner door, which was slightly ajar, opening into a paved courtyard. The inner door Montgomery at once closed. A hammock was slung across the darker corner of the room, and a small unglazed window, defended by an iron bar, looked out towards the sea. Okay, let's take a look at here, see what we're doing. See if there's something, no dancing bears here again. Again, no dancing bears. What's going on anyway? Don't know. Construction, summer construction, as always. That's see now, I thought about, downsizing and getting me a truck camper or something. And then I got stuck in traffic once, or in a construction, and I'm like, you know what? I think I kind of got to go to the bathroom. So, with Ronnie or even little Dora, you just, scoot back there, do your thing. You can still see out the window, but a truck camper, oh boy. So no, that's not going to happen. I could just see it. Somebody's going to get in my truck and drive while I'm in the crapper. All right. Okay, let's get back to this story. Iron bar that looked out towards the sea. Okay. This, the gray-haired man told me, was to be my apartment, and the inner door, which, for fear of accidents, he said, he would lock on the other side, was my limit inward. He called my attention to a convenient deck chair before the window and to an array of old books, chiefly I found surgical works and the editions of the Latin and Greek classics, languages I cannot read with any comfort, on a shelf near the hammock. He left the room by the outer door as if to avoid opening the inner one again. We usually have our meals in here, said Montgomery, and then, as if in doubt, went out after the other. Moreau, I heard him call, and for the moment I did not think I noticed. Then, as I handled the books on the shelf, it came up in consciousness. Where had I heard the name Moreau before? I sat down before the window, took out the biscuits that still remained to me, and ate them with an excellent appetite. Moreau. Through the window I saw one of those unaccountable men in white lugging a packing case along the beach. Presently the window frame hid him. Then I heard a key inserted and turned in the lock behind me. After a little while I heard, through the locked door, the noise of the staghounds, which I had now been brought up from the beach. They were not barking, but sniffing and growling in a curious fashion. I could hear the rapid patter of their feet and Montgomery's voice soothing them. I was very much impressed by the elaborate secrecy of these two men regarding the contents of the place, and for some time I was thinking of that, and of the unaccountable familiarity of the name Moreau. But so odd is the human memory that I could not recall the well-known name in its proper connection. From that my thoughts went to the indefinable queerness of the deformed and white-swathed man on the beach. I never saw such a gait, such odd motions, as he pulled at the box. I recalled that none of these men had spoken to me, though most of them I had found looking at me at one time or another in a peculiarly furtive manner, quite unlike the frank stare of your unsophisticated savage. I wondered what language they spoke. They had all seemed remarkably taciturn, and when they did speak, endowed with very uncanny voices. What was wrong with them? And I recalled the eyes of Montgomery's ungainly attendant. Just as I was thinking of him, he came in. He was now dressed in white and carried a little tray of some coffee and boiled vegetables thereon. I could hardly repress a shuddering recoil as he came, bending amiably, and placed the tray before me on the table. Then astonishment paralyzed me. Under his stringy black locks, I saw his ear. It jumped upon me suddenly close to my face. The man had pointed ears, covered with a fine brown fur. Yeah, that'll just send you for a loop, won't it? Okay, here we go. I-40. Interstate travel, yeah, just, getting here to there kind of thing. And it usually beats you up. The roads are so beat up. I don't spend a whole lot of time on the interstates, just, connecting one spot to another kind of thing. Your breakfast, sir, he said. I stared at his face without attempting to answer him. He turned and went towards the door, regarding me oddly over his shoulder. I followed him out with my eyes, and as I did, by some trick of unconscious cerebration, there came surging into my head the phrase, the Moreau Hollows. Was it? The Moreau. Ah! It sent my memory back 10 years. The Moreau Horrors. The phrase drifted loose in my mind for a moment, and then I saw it in red lettering on a little bluff-colored pamphlet to read, which made one shiver and creep. Then I remembered distinctly all about it. That long-forgotten pamphlet came back with startling vividness to my mind. I had been a mere lad then, and Moreau was, I suppose, about 50. A prominent and masterful physiologist, oh boy, well known in scientific circles for his extraordinary imagination and his brutal directness in discussion. Was this the same Moreau? He had published some very astonishing facts in connection with the transfusion of blood, and in addition was known to be doing valuable work on morbid growths. Then suddenly his career was closed. He had to leave England. A journalist obtained access to his laboratory in the capacity of laboratory assistant, with the deliberate intention of making sensational exposures, and by the help of a shocking accident, if it was an accident, his gruesome pamphlet became notorious. On that day of its publication, a wretched dog, flayed and otherwise mutilated, escaped from Moreau's house. It was in the silly season, and the prominent editor, a cousin of the temporary laboratory assistant, appealed to the conscience of the nation. It was not the first time that conscience had turned against the methods of research. The doctor was simply howled out of the country. It may be that he deserved to be, but I still think that the tepid support of his fellow investigators and his desertion by the great body of scientific workers was a shameful thing. Yet some of his experiments, by the journalist's account, were wantonly cruel. He might perhaps have purchased his social peace by abandoning his investigations, but he apparently preferred the latter, as most men who have once fallen under the overmastering spell of research. He was married and had indeed nothing but his own interest to consider. He was unmarried. Oh, okay. Let's just wrap this thing up here. Sam C. Oh, hey, our big old Rosie. Oh, thanks for coming along, guys, and we'll catch you next time.